Roll call, Kate, please.
Joseph Britton is not here. He's coming late. Rachel Chalesky,
Here.
Kate Canetta here. Gladys Cooper,
Here.
Lauren Daly,
Here.
Joe De Silva, Catherine Hodgson.
Here.
Richard Janelli is absent this evening. Kathy Molinaro is absent this evening. Al Russo
Here.
and Amy Spolina.
Here.
Alrighty.
At this portion of our agenda is very exciting recognition. And at this point, I'm going to let Dr. Sal take over the recognition part. Dr. Sal?
Okay. Yeah, I do want to make sure we had a conflict. Kara, has Carmen been able to make it tonight? Did that work out?
She's on. Yeah.
Okay, great. I can't see if that's on. Let's see here. So, some years ago, Morris Street was honored with the Blue Ribbon Award. Unquestionably, it's a demanding program. Ours is based on achievement, student achievement, and in the category for low-income students achieving exceptionally high rates of achievement. When I received the call from the state, they were verifying the data, looking at it very deeply. We're just so impressed with the work that's been going over at South Street, which begun a few years ago, and Carmen has taken that leadership over the last few years, and it's really crystallized, and it's really producing some outstanding results. And the state wanted to be sure to recognize that. So when we received our schools of distinction, as you know, last spring, 6 or 7 of them, which was phenomenal, the state does a combing and evaluating of all of those schools. And they called and recommended that they would send to the National Blue Ribbon Committee, South Street School from Connecticut. They reviewed the portfolio, contacted the state and said they would accept them as a Blue Ribbon school. Now, this is 47,000 schools, and this is an honor that is sought after, and to receive it twice in 4 years, and our elementary schools are doing this, it's just so impressive. So Carmen, you're here. Why don't you talk a little bit? I know the mayor is here too. He wanted to congratulate you, but we're just so proud of you and the faculty and the students. And let me hand the mic over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sal. Thank you, Board of Education. Thank you, everyone. Administrative Council, thank you. So I just want to show you, South Street is here. South Street, can you say hi?
Great job, South Street.
So we were trying to think of how my husband's throwing confetti. We were trying to think of how can we make them a part of this, because obviously, as we all know, this couldn't have been accomplished without the amazing staff from South Street. And I want to just say a couple of words. I have an hour worth of a speech, so I hope you guys are ready. Just kidding. This is a great honor, and South Street staff is amazing. They have come a long way, as you guys know. I came to Connecticut 16 years ago from Massachusetts, from the Boston Public Schools. And honestly, I never wanted to be a principal. It's a huge responsibility. And I liked being just the assistant principal, but Dr. Sal entrusted me with this position. And from the very beginning, I knew that my goal was to make South Street #1, because I know it can be possible, but I cannot do it alone. It takes a village. It takes a staff that can trust you, a staff that builds upon the foundation of the work that has been done there already. And so we took on the challenge. The staff trusted me as their leader, and with the help of the administrative council, who's always there to support us, the help of our parents who have been able to support us as well, bring their kids every day to school and trust us with them every day, we have been able to accomplish this wonderful task. One of the things that people are asking me now is, how did you accomplish that? again, South Street was always known as one of the lowest performing school in Danbury and across the state. And now we're being looked at as a model school. And well, three things I set from the very beginning: high expectations for everyone, high expectation first of myself, and then to the rest, everyone there. And so we know that all of the students can achieve success, and the staff charted that way. They're the ones that are right in front of the kids, and they're the ones that took on that responsibility and went out of their way and above and beyond to be able to make sure that all of our students were learning. We still have a lot of work to do. This is just the beginning. We're excited. This year is definitely a challenge, but we will continue to strive and to provide our students and our community what they need in order for all of our students to be successful. So I thank all of you for your support, and Dr. Sal especially. And here's again South Street. This is to them as well. Couldn't have done it without them.
Congratulations. Yeah, big smiles. Big smiles. Terrific. Great job. Kara, anything? Dr. Kesmero.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure which Kara. Yeah, no, I just want to
There's
say
a lot of it.
congratulations to South Street and to Carmen. The one thing I can say for sure is that my phone rings quite often, and it's Carmen on the other end asking to try something a little bit different, to try to do something a little bit out of the box. And her teachers have come to her with some ideas. And so there's been this sort of great flow of ideas and collaboration that has kind of sparked in the last couple of years. And the staff is always coming forward with new ideas to try things to reach kids in different ways. And Carmen has been shepherding that in through her leadership, and has been in relatively constant communication with trying to seek out new and innovative ways to reach students at South Street. And so I also know that she goes to the ends of the earth to reach families, our ESL families in particular, and to make sure that things are just the way that they need to be, so that they understand what is happening and that they're fully engaged in their school community. So I just want to say congratulations to the South Street staff and to Carmen for her leadership. It's well deserved. And again, this is just the beginning. The sky is limitless for South Street and the trajectory with where you're going. So continue on, and congratulations to all.
There is a national ceremony, but I think it's going to be done virtual. We'll be hearing about it, and we'll be getting a special award. And I'm sure that this spring, if we have our day in Hartford, you'll be presented with a special plaque as well. So congratulations, and the job well done to the board, to the faculty, to Carmen, to the parents, and to the kids. Great job. Thank you. Thank you for the recognition.
Thank you. Next, Sandy, before we get to the public participation, do we have any comments?
Refreshing, as of right now, no, we do not.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to public participation. Kate, will you do our reading for the public participation part, please?
I certainly will. I do see a note on here, Gladys, about Mayor Boughton. Did you want to?
Go do the public, the reading for the public participation, and then we'll go right to Mayor
Sure
Boughton.
thing. Okay. Due to the unique nature of the COVID-19 crisis and the limitations of technology, members of the public who are Danbury residents are invited to send brief comments and questions via email in advance to dps_public_BOE@danbury.k12.ct.us. The board welcomes public participation and asks that comments be limited to 3 minutes. You may offer objective comments of school operations and programs that concern you. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, or against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System.
Thank you, Kate. I'm going to read a brief statement too. The concern brought forth at our last Board of Education meeting regarding the Spanish translation has been resolved. Board of Education meeting will be translated in Spanish and uploaded to the website the following day. Thank you all for being so patient, and I hope we continue to work together. Next, we will have Mayor Bowden come forward.
Mark?
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman.
Good evening, Mayor Bowden.
Good to be here. I wanted just to take a few minutes and kind of brief the board on where we stand with the Danbury Career Academy, what the latest action in the legislature was, what it means, and what next steps would be going forward to be able to make this a reality. First, for those that aren't aware, there was a special session of the General Assembly about 2 weeks ago. And during that time period, the General Assembly adopted, the governor has since signed a school construction bill. That school construction bill does mention Danbury specifically. The specifics are that for the first time that this state has ever been able to do, we would be allowed to repurpose a corporate building or a office building, if you will, for use by the Danbury Public Schools as a school, assuming that it meets the standards of construction that are required, classroom size, et cetera, all of the operational things that have to go into that as well. That the reimbursement rate would be 80% from the state of Connecticut, that we would work on a plan that would not only be a beta test for us, but then would be able to be translated into general legislation that any city or town could use. So we're sort of a test bed, which means that we'll be keeping some extra data, extra information for people so that we can then take this information as we go through this process and again, use it for a template for future communities to use. That we would be allowed to not use a traditional bidding method for construction. We would be able to do essentially a turnkey or design build method where we would, just like you buy a house or a condominium or anything like that, we would go in and buy a completed school as long, again, as it met all state regulations and requirements. But that during the process of the construction of said school, there would be steps that have to be taken by the developer to meet with the state to review the plans and to make sure that they in fact do meet all requirements that the state of Connecticut has. So we're very excited that the state agreed to this. This was a very, I can't emphasize what a heavy lift this was. Pretty much burned up every IOU I have going back about 20 years now. I have to give a lot of credit to David Arcani, who was right there. We were at hip to hip doing all this stuff. I had to take certain members of General Assembly out to play golf. I had to wine and dine. I had to do everything that had to be done to be able to get to this point where people sort of got what we were trying to do. And so I think in the end, the Speaker of the House really stepped in and said, it was really coming unwound. The governor wasn't feeling it, and OPM had a real big issue with it, even though we had briefed them for months. We started working on them last year. But at the end, the speaker stepped in and said, no, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this language that we've drafted, which initially they were going to throw out. So what does all that mean? It means that we're going to be able to go forward with the Danbury Career Academy. We've got work to do. As you know, I've been meeting with Antonio over the last week or two to begin scoping out what are the next steps look in this, and what do we need to do to be able to make sure that we hit all of the benchmarks that are in the legislation as it relates to filing deadlines and so forth. I think, first of all, I do want to take a step back and in some ways apologize. I think the 2020 task force, unfortunately, two things came into play there. First one was COVID, made it extremely difficult to meet, to have meetings. Zoom meetings became problematic. Having a freewheeling discussion became problematic. We did have a couple in November, but and a couple after that, after the holidays, and then essentially we pretty much shut down both the school side and the city side of government. It wasn't necessarily the process that I saw or envisioned, but at the end, I think we got where we needed to be. So we have not had a vote out of 2020 out of this particular program, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be an issue. And we really haven't had as much interfacing with the board as we typically would should we be in traditional meetings and doing the way we've always gone about business, right? So that's not exactly our process all the time, but again, I think we had to deal with the cards that were dealt with us in terms of getting it done. Secondly, obviously, we were on a time constraint. We can't wait the traditional 5 years to go ground up. If we could identify a 20-acre piece of property that we could buy, that we could build a building straight up, we just don't have the time. We know we have kids coming in about 3 years, and even then it's going to be tight to get them in there. But having a building that's already pre-built, but now requires internal modifications, makes our build out from 3 years to a year and a half. And so that year and a half will be mission critical for us to be able to deal with the students that we believe are showing up. Now, we got a little bit of a break this year. Our numbers aren't as high as they were last year, but last year more than made up for what we didn't get this year. So it all evens out in the end anyways, right? So our next steps will be to continue negotiations with the owners of the building so that I can bring back a finite number for the purchase of said building. We have a not to exceed number of $94 million. We don't think we'll be anywhere near that, but that gives us plenty of room for what we need to do to the building and to purchase 3 pods of that building for our use. This will be a building that'll belong to the city of Danbury long past we're there. Future people who are on the board or at the city council or mayor can use it if for some reason our numbers get smaller again. I don't think they will, but if they did, can use it for whatever they want, or they can decommission an older building somewhere else in our portfolio and use this building. So it gives us much needed flexibility as well. So we'll continue our negotiations. The owners have been super flexible. I anticipate having some kind of contract ready to go for the whole project, probably by right after the first of the year, maybe a little bit, maybe early February. Bring that to the council, have the council review that, have a vote out of the council. We would be required to place a deposit down on the building, much like you would put a deposit down on a house. That'll give them their go ahead to begin their construction. We then have to have all of our paperwork in by October 1st, 2021. That's the drop dead date to meet our reimbursement. And we actually, normally it's June, but they gave us an additional 4 months in the special legislation for us to do that. So that'll help us because I don't know if we'll be ready with fully completed drawings by June. I think it's more like July or August, those will be ready. And you have to submit all that when you submit for your final authorization. So that's where we stand right now. We'll have more information for you as we continue to scope out the project, but I just want to give you a sense of what's going on and where we're going with this. And I think at some point a full-blown presentation by the architect who will be engaged will be warranted, obviously in front of the board, and Dr. Sale and Kevin and their team will work their way through this and work in conjunction with the EdSpec and with the building committee on the board as well as 2020. So we're excited. I mean, it's a good thing, right? I mean, this particular piece of legislation will save us 80% of $94 million. So you're looking at about $75 million. And the delta between 60 and 80 we would have been around, saves us about 20 million bucks when it's all done, 20 to $25 million. And the style of construction, if we were to go a traditional building for, let's say 1,200 students, you're probably going to spend about 160 to 170 million. We're getting out the door at about 95 million. With the reimbursement out of pocket for taxpayers will be about $20 million. It's pretty darn good. Now that doesn't count obviously staffing, that's a whole nother story, but this will allow us to really save a lot of money on debt service and provide us some wiggle room as we need to staff up the building and hire, et cetera. There are a lot of questions that'll have to be answered. How do we fill the building? Do we do like we did with the middle school, the West Side Academy, where we, each year we added another grade so we could staff up slowly and hire slowly? I think that a lot of that will depend on the numbers that we see coming through the door in terms of how the board opts to do that. A lot of that will depend on where we are financially. But I think more importantly, it'll be driven by, how many students we have. Can we do just a grade 6, then add another grade 6, and add another grade 6 all the way up to grade 12? Or do we have to do everything at once? Or do we do just a middle school at once? I think those are questions that remain to be answered. And that's quite frankly something that the board will have to hash out with Sal and the rest of the team. So with that, I'll throw it open to any questions with obviously, Madam Chairwoman, if you so concur. And if I don't have an answer, I'll try to get one for you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I have a question. Mayor, first, great job on your part and our delegation's part to get this done. I think this is a great start and a good idea. One quick question. I know we're working on a design build and the contractor, the developer's building it. Is the developer required to do this on a prevailing wage basis?
No, with the exception that if state money is being used, it does require prevailing wage.
That
while
was the question.
Yeah, so while the traditional bidding process has been waived, whether it's union or non-union will just depend, I think, on where the lowest bids come in and what numbers that they come.
Oh,
I think a large proportion of the building will be union labor, which, again, we're looking for the best number we can get, but we're not doing the bidding. That's really up to the developer, and
Okay.
he'll be contracting with the actual contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Mhm.
When we initially discussed this, wasn't the build out about 45 million?
It is, but we added at the end, we added another pod in there because we wanted to provide flexibility from 900 students up to about 1,300, 1,200, 40, somewhere in that range. To do that, we had to add in another pod, which increased the cost. But the good news of that is that we went from 60% to 80% in the reimbursement. So that made life a lot easier for us.
Once again, sir, let me add my voice to the well done button on this crowd. Well done, sir, to you and the team.
Thank you. Any other
So
questions?
Mark, process-wide, we'll have a facilities committee. Last year, unfortunately, we didn't get to go the weekend this whole thing hit, but we have some conceptual ideas about this. The academy, we did visit, and Kara and Dan from the high school and Melissa, have all gone. So we have some background information. The state also, Kara, are you on, Dr. Casmero, has placed in a position to receive, I believe, some kind of consultant to work with us. Is that correct?
Correct. So we've been selected to work with, in consultation with the state of Connecticut and NC3T, to begin looking at evaluating our current assets and talking about the pathways, how to build these pathways out and do it the right way. So this is a free collaboration with the state of Connecticut that we're very excited about, and that's really just started. I think some of our COVID meetings have been a little bit difficult to engage fully, but we've just started that plan, and we'll be working closely with them to learn how to best utilize our current assets to build this out.
So, let's put that aside, the break fix stuff. With Mark and with and the delegation did, David, is just incomprehensible. He's not telling you everything. There was some turns that were moving away from commitments, and it was their diligence and their persistence on behalf of our kids to do the right thing. And Mark, I just can't say thank you enough for the kids, to you and to the delegation and to David. This is going to be a tremendous asset. Kara and the team are really excited. Dan, our kids are going to benefit well into the future. Connecticut is going to benefit. Danbury is going to benefit with this career pathway. So I'm tingling down my back. I'm just so excited about this. So thank you. And Madam Chair, when Joe gets on, we'll set a facilities committee meeting, and we'll start talking about some ideas, and the board too, some ideas about construct of the grade levels and some of the things that the mayor talked about as they move along the parallel structure about how to get this in front of the state. So thanks again, Mark, and thank you, whole team, and Antonio for his diligence. I know, it was hard for him, and he was up there fighting for us. So tell him I said thank you.
I will. One of the challenges we're having is that some people on the OPM side, the school construction side, want the operational. They want the the operational plan for the school and how we're going to, what the education's going to look like within the walls. And, we had to sort of do a brush back and say, well, that's not really your concern. Your concern is, are the walls going to hold up? Are they going to be able to handle so many kids? Are we meeting the square footage requirements for all the various programming that the state is requiring? So the sooner we have that piece done, I know you got a long ways to go on that, but the sooner, late spring, whatever, whenever you have it done, the better. Because people who ask for it that really shouldn't be asking for it, but they want to see it anyways, because I think they're more curious than anything else. And that was part of the issue that we had with certain people who are really just entrenched bureaucrats that just didn't want to do this because they, well, what is it going to look like inside? And what's the education going to look like? I'm like, don't worry about that. We're going to handle X amount of kids and so many square feet, and we're going to meet all of your requirements. So I think that is absolutely under the purview of the Board of Education. It's what you guys get elected and hired to do, and that's what you should be doing. We got work to do. There's a lot of hair on this in the sense that, again, some people's feathers got ruffled, but I do want to again thank the speaker because he literally, we stood there in a 3-way call and he said to the governor, I gave the mayor my word, and I'm not going back on my word. This is what we're doing. That's it. We're not debating this anymore. And then the governor said, okay, we'll do it. So all good stuff. And again, everybody pushed from all their different angles to make it happen.
Mark, is there going to have to be a referendum? I know you had some ideas about that. Maybe the board might want to hear that.
Yeah, I definitely think, I know that we can enter the contractual arrangement with the developer. I'm not worried about that, with a deposit, with authority from the council. I don't think we can get away without a referendum because some of the old language from the statutes are still in there. So I think we're going to have a referendum at one point, but this will be, because it's the most cost-effective way ever put in front of our voters to be able to handle our students, not counting the educational excellence that will go on inside the building, which Kara and her team is going to be working on. I think this will be the easiest vote we've ever had. I just got to find the right vehicle to lop on a referendum. And I may just do it, even if I don't need it, just to say it was done, just so that they can't throw that up to us at the last minute and say, well, you need a referendum, you didn't get it. So we may do something in the spring or late spring. I'm still kicking this around. We were not ready to have something in front of the voters in 3 weeks. We just didn't know if this was going to fly through the General Assembly. And I didn't want to ask for too little money, which is what I would have ended up doing if I tried to do a referendum then. Well, so the answer is most likely.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. No, thank you, Dr. Sayre, and thank you, Mayor Boughton, for supporting education the way you have this past year. And on behalf of the board, we would like to thank you, and the delegation would like to thank them in a special way because we can imagine it was not easy, but we know that you support education and we appreciate what you have done for our students here in Danbury. Thank you very much.
No Say, problem. Mayor, yes. Do you know a celebrity that'll give us $10 million if we named it after him? Good job on that.
That's not over yet. That's not over yet. But we'll keep you posted, everybody. This is great news. We're going to be working through November and December, and you've got your building committee. I know they'll get going. I'm going to hop on another Zoom call unless you need me, but we will definitely keep everybody in the loop here.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Okay. Next is our consent calendar, Kate.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approves the items on the consent calendar, Exhibit 20-106 through Exhibit 20-107 as recommended.
Second.
That's
Motion
Joe.
made by Kate, seconded by Joe. Any question concerning the motion?
I have,
Hearing
I have a
sorry.
quick question about the
Yes,
minutes.
Rachel.
I'm not sure if the numbers are correct, maybe if it's a typo, but under the superintendent's report of our last regular meeting, the AIS magnet school funding update, I'm not sure if the enrollment numbers are correct there. They seem a little off to me, but could somebody maybe look at that?
Rachel,
Yeah.
they were unofficial, just count, tonight is the official.
Okay, but it's,
Yeah.
but
We
it's,
can correct the minutes. But
Okay.
we'll look at that.
all right, great.
But for our submission to the state, it's the October one, but we'll check that date and the numbers that we have to correct the minutes.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll put a note
Any
down.
other
Thank you.
question concerning the minutes? Seeing none, Kate, could you do the roll call, please, for the minutes? Or
Sure
the
can.
consent calendar?
Okay. Rachel Chalesky,
Aye.
Kate Canetta, aye. Gladys Cooper,
Yes.
Lauren Daly,
Aye.
Joe De Silva,
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson,
Aye.
Al Russo,
Aye.
Amy Spalina,
Aye.
all in favor.
Motion so carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda, do we have an employee representative here tonight?
I don't know.
No, we do?
I don't, I'm looking up and down. I don't see Aaron's name.
No, I don't see them either.
No, Madam Chairman.
Okay, so we'll go down. Do we have our students on with us tonight?
Hello, everyone. How are you guys?
We're good. How you doing?
I'm good.
All right.
So, DHS is working with the Do Something organization in order to register more people to vote. And so far, we have registered close to 60 people. And we're actually the first in the nation for registrations. We're also in the running to win a $10,000 grant for the school. And every student who has signed up to register people is also in the running to win a $1,000 scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, wow.
Wow.
Thank you, guys. So Tri-M, or Music Honor Society, is now taking new members for the 2020 to 2021 school year. The submissions will be all virtual, and we are working towards creating a montage video with all types of instruments and vocalists. The Board of Governors, Executive Council, and peer leadership will give tours to the freshmen next week. The tours will be on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and will be from 1 to 1:30, 1:30 to 2, and 2 to 2:30. The
It'll be live, right?
I'm actually, I would think so.
I was just, I know it was very important to Mr. Donovan to see if we can make that arrangement, but okay, good. Well, thank you for doing it. It's important.
So the groups will have 10 people each, and there will be 7 groups each session. We also want to say congratulations to Caleb Schlissel on being a National Merit Scholarship semifinalist. Also, congratulations to Aaron H. and O'Neill K. on earning commended status. The BOG is planning to have a Spirit Week before Thanksgiving break this November. We want to try to bring some school spirit back. We have also had some changes to the DHS schedule. Starting October 26th, classes will run from 7:20 to 12 with additional added instruction time for the cohort that wasn't in the building that day. There will also be classes on Wednesdays that will switch A or B every week. And that's all.
Thank you, Jake, so very much.
Thank you, guys.
Jake, when are you going to find out if you guys have won the scholarship and all of that? Did they tell you?
We should find out in the coming weeks. You guys will know. For sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You
Thank
too.
you. You too, Jake. Okay. Do we have anyone from ACE? No?
Christopher, I don't see. No.
Yes, ma'am.
Nicole? Hi, go ahead. Krista, for you else, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, guys.
Hello, my name is Nicole. I don't know if you can see me.
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Nicole Quishby. I am a student at ACE, and this year I was nominated to be their new representative along with Chris Johnson, their new representative. And I want to tell you what is going on in ACE. So, um, good evening, Board of Ed members, cabinet and community members. Thank you for allowing Chris and I to represent and speak on behalf of the Alternative Center for Excellence. During the week of September 21st through 25th, ACE held its Humanities Department grade level benchmark week. The ACE Humanities Department has created a benchmark Google Classroom that the entire student body participates in based on your highest grade level in English or social studies. Thank you, ACE Humanities Department, for all of your diligent work on this school-wide learning activity. Also, ACE staff nominates and votes weekly on the Students of the Week. We would like to publicly represent 2 Students of the Week for their hard work and demonstration of their 5 behavioral expectations at ACE. 11 students were nominated and 2 were recognized last week, and they are Jalen Batista and Axel Valenzuela. They will receive Dunkin' Donut gift cards donated by American Paving. Congratulations to both of you. Thank you.
On October 27th, 12 seniors will participate in the school day SAT assessment for seniors at ACE. On the week of October 25th, Joanne Tolles, Melissa Lasky, Daniela Esposito, and approximately 70 ACE students will engage virtually in the Dodge Poetry Festival. Thank you all for allowing us to share what is going on with our ACE family during our current distance learning environment, and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next, Dr. Sayah, the presentation.
Yes. At a board retreat, the timing couldn't be any better, right, for us. The request for a Q&A, I think you've received that, was a request for a presentation over the our distance learning program, a hybrid program, which we have tonight. Kara's put it together. We are going to encapsulate this and also put on our website, because as you know, and the reopening is going to happen on the 26th. And there are a lot of questions about the program. I will say to you, what you're going to see tonight is the thinking over time that we have had to develop. We have tried to learn from districts around us, and we will continue to learn. This will be the phase that we'll implement. I think we'll do our due diligence and see if adjustments need to be made. But this work has been, I just can't express to you how deep and how difficult it has been to do. We have, I want to say Kim is on the line, and Kevin and Kelly just finalized it today to staff for going through doing the staffing, because we have, as you know, there were a number of accommodations that had to happen. The distance learning and the accommodations, we had about 72 to 75 staff that had to be developed and assigned to distance learning while we reconstruct our class list, is like starting from first day of school. But I want to just keep quiet now, and I would like you to see the presentation, and then we'll leave it up to questions and answer. Kara, are you ready to do it?
I am. And just to clarify, the presentation tonight is really, since the board retreat, we had made the decision to shift to hybrid. And so the focus, if we had an extra board meeting or so, we'd be able to talk about it, all of the distance learning programming that we have in place. And then also, in addition, the hybrid model that we're going to be moving to. So this is really more focused on the hybrid model. And we'll talk a little bit about how the distance learning cohort fits into this, but mainly to make sure that we have enough information out there to share with our parents who are listening tonight, so that they understand how the shift on the 26th will affect them and their children at home. So I will start my screen share.
You might, if folks have their, they might want to turn the mute. Go ahead.
Okay, can everyone see this at home? We good? Dr. Sal, you able?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is a little bit lengthy, and it's really to go over sort of the details of where we are now, but also to unpack a little bit at each level, elementary, middle school, and high school, on sort of the operational inner workings of the schedule, and also to highlight some of the summary points of both hybrid and students who have selected the full distance learning cohort model. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I know there was a lot of questions. We did answer those through the parent FAQ. So anybody out there who's still looking for that, that is a pretty helpful resource with a lot of questions that have already been asked and answered. That was sent out in the last robocall by Dr. Sal. So this should look pretty familiar. This is the current district distance learning schedule. These are the times that students have been going to school. When we shift to the hybrid model beginning October 26th, the times will change, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the rationale for this change, along with what we had originally proposed and why we need to make some adjustments. So a preschool session runs from 9 to 11:30 in the morning. The afternoon session, 12:15 to 2:45. Again, these were all published. K-5 early schools run from 8 to, with the buses departing at 1:35. The K-5 late schools run from 8:30 with buses departing at 2:05. 6-8 starts at 7:35, buses departing 12:40, and grades 9 through 12 starts their day at 7:05 and buses departing at 12:10. On Wednesday, you can see that all students are at home learning, and there are times set aside for the start times for that day as well. That is synchronous instruction with their teacher at home. So again, depending on the cohort, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, the times on the left-hand column represent the school day. There was a lot of questions around why we changed the time from the original proposed 60-minute and 90-minute early release. So if you remember, very early on back in August, as we were preparing to open in hybrid, we had a 60-minute early release schedule for K-5 and then 90 at 612. We have done a lot of consultation with area school districts. We have learned a lot from some of the parts that have maybe tripped up some of the districts in terms of timing and planning. And so we'll talk a little bit about the differences in the shift in the schedule. So in K-5, we'll have what is essentially boils down to a 75 early minute release, and at the high school, a little bit longer with 110. What we've learned is that the arrival and dismissal process is very complex, particularly with the number of parents that we will have dropping off. We need to make sure that we are planning appropriately for that. Grab and go lunch also takes some time, and we are doing that at the secondary level. The biggest process we think will take the most amount of time is around the K-8 level, but mostly K-5, with young children being dropped off and having the number of cars coming into the school. So all the schools have a plan for that arrival and dismissal, but we are allotting for some additional time to reflect the reality that's needed to actually operationalize and execute our plans at each level. We also have learned that everything in distance learning, and so true will be for hybrid, that everything takes a little bit longer. The planning time that's needed to work with students both in school and to connect with students at home, and to plan for the digital complexities that are needed really take additional time for the teacher. And we want to make sure that we have some of that time, particularly at the end of the day and at K-5, where our teachers will be connecting with students at the end of the day who have been working on asynchronous lessons. The other thing that we thought was really important, having started the school year in the way that we did, and worrying about disruption, is this idea that our kids have finally gotten settled into these current schedules. We've got them in their groups. We've took a couple of weeks to make sure that we have identified their needs and that we're working with them and that their groups are set. for intervention, in particular, special services, ESL services. And so we wanted to try to disrupt those current groups as least as possible. And so we took the current schedule and the groupings that students are in, and we looked to sort of stretch the schedule across. And so we created a schedule, particularly at K-5, where this was most imminent, to make sure that we maintain the integrity of the groups that the students were still working in with regards to services. So we did our best to accommodate that. Additionally, should we find ourselves, and we're seeing this now playing out in communities around us, having to have schools go in and out of hybrid or full distance learning because of an exposure, that we want to have one schedule that can serve both purposes. And so the schedules that you'll see presented represent an amount of time and are organized as such so that whether or not we're in school or we're at home, that the length of the day and the organization of the schedule serves both purposes for the least amount of disruption. I have several schedules in here. I'm going to speak first about the elementary schedule, and I'm really only going to speak to the early elementary school because both early and elementary schedules are the same. They only differ by about 30 minutes or so. So I will kind of go through the elementary schedule here just to kind of give you an overview of the day. So for students who are in hybrid and who have selected, who are in the blue, on the blue team cohort, so that is attending in-person instruction on Monday and Tuesday, students will be in school between 8 a.m. and 1:35 p.m. They will arrive to school. They will follow all of our social distancing protocols that the buildings have set up. They will grab their breakfast and they will head off to their first class. The teachers will engage them as they come in and supervise students, but also begin to engage in social emotional learning activities that are community building activities right from the moment that students arrive in the classroom. We anticipate that as we become more efficient with our arrival process and our ability to grab and go efficiently and students get settled, that will be more time dedicated to this SEL morning work and less time transitioning and organizing. So, but that's just typical fare for the beginning of school anyways, but in this particular situation that we're in, we know we're going to need some extra time in the morning to make sure that our systems are operating smoothly. The instructional day will generally run from about 8:30 to 1 o'clock. Students will have their numeracy, their literacy, reading, writing, they'll have all of that. In addition to that, we will still be able to provide our What I Need block and our ESL services. So students will go, and the students have this now in a typical year, and we've been able to accommodate that in this current distance learning schedule. So students will have those services, they will have a lunch break, they will have engagement with a special area teacher who will come in to their classroom, and in between all of this, the teacher will have scheduled mask breaks for students to be able to take breaks during the course of their school day. Dismissal process will begin approximately 1 o'clock, and we know it's going to take a little bit of time to get students out safely to the pickup lines and to drop off, and the buses will roll out by 1:35. So individual schools will have their set procedures and pickup times and drop off times, and will be communicated by individual schools. This represents a generic schedule for the 13 schools, but this has been designed to give parents at home an understanding generally of how the day will work. While the blue team is at school, and after they are dismissed, the teacher will work at home with the orange team. So this team here, these are the students who are not attending in-person learning for the day, will be sent asynchronous lessons and practice to engage them in learning at home. I can't begin to tell you how much work our coaches are doing right now to design lessons that are pre-recorded and that prompt students to what the areas that they need to learn, along with directions for the practice that they need to engage in. So we do have a team that is working very hard to produce these very high quality constructs that the teachers can set the students who are at home up for learning. At the end of the day, when the teacher is done with the blue team, there is an opportunity sometime between 2 and 3 p.m. and the individual teachers will schedule this with students to check in, to answer questions, and to make sure that anything that needs to be clarified is done so. There's also time for teachers that's going to be working on planning and having some meetings, but there is an opportunity in here to check in live with students to engage them here. The same thing plays out in reverse on Thursday and Friday with the orange team in school, blue team at home. So you start to get the picture there. On Wednesdays, everyone who in hybrid is at home. So between 8 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., students will engage with their teacher from both who are in both cohorts live with their teacher at home. They will have a morning meeting, potentially a whole group lesson here, and then followed up by several small group lessons that will be scheduled individually with the child's classroom teacher. We will also still be able to provide WIN and ESL and special education services. This will be scheduled through the school. At the end of the day on Wednesdays is 12:30. So again, just to reiterate, the in-person learning happens either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. All students are home, engaged virtually with their teacher live from home. Okay. This is the next slide is the general elementary schedule for the late schools. This is the same exact idea, just about 30 minutes difference between early and late. So just to summarize the hybrid program for K-5, students will attend school in person 2 days a week based on their cohort assignment. Both cohorts will attend class remotely on Wednesday. The focus of Wednesdays is mainly small groups scheduled by the teachers, and the students will be provided, the students who are home on their non-in-person days will be provided asynchronous lessons and practice. So the asynchronous, to clarify, these are assigned lessons and practice to be completed independently and flexibly, and the teacher will check in with students at the end of the day. Special areas, there's been a lot of questions about special areas. Special areas will occur only on the days of in-person instruction. And so if your child's special occurs on a Monday and a Tuesday, they will engage with those teachers, but not so much if that occurs on a Thursday and a Friday and they are in the blue cohort. What we'll try to do in the spring is rotate some of those specials so that students are able to engage with all 4 areas and have exposure to all of them. Additionally, we've had some of our special area teachers have asked if they can still post to a special area classroom a recorded lesson. So if students still wanted to be able to see what was happening in an art class, that they may be able to do so. So we are still working on bringing creative ways to engage students and adding to what it is that we've been able to plan so far. If a student has a special that falls on a Wednesday, they will still have their special area, but it'll be a live synchronous class with their special area teacher. Okay. So in contrast to that, we have the elementary full distance learning program. So for families who have selected full distance learning, these students are going to be assigned a distance learning teacher. That's been a lot of the work that has been going on this week is to identify and finalize those selections and those lists. Students who are in the distance learning cohort will follow a relatively similar schedule to what's happening in the schools. And their start of their day will either be at 8 o'clock or 8:30 because we're going to try to align the schedules to the schools with which they came from. I have to commend the cabinet team for working really hard on creating a system where the majority of students would still be affiliated with the current schools that they're in, so that there's an alignment of services as well, which we think is very important for continuity. So just very briefly, what you see here at the beginning of the day, Tier 2 intervention simply means that the distance learning teacher would be the one to deliver any services for Tier 2 instruction that is needed. Normally, in students who are in the schools would receive intervention services from one of a number of folks. But in this model, the distance learning teacher will be delivering that intervention unless there's another plan in place. And students who are currently in different types of intervention will be contacted to kind of continue those groups, and we'll find ways to continue to do that. So generally the instructional day is the same: numeracy, literacy, reading, writing, mathematics, 8:30 to 12:30. They will have a special choice board. They will not engage with a special area teacher. We simply do not have the staffing capacity to do both in both programs. They will still continue to have WIN and ESL and any small group instruction that the teacher feels needs to be provided. 12:30 to 1 o'clock, students will have their lunch, and then we'll engage in some additional asynchronous instruction or practice. In the second half of the day, in the afternoon, it is possible for some students, not all, to have arrangements for additional small group instruction or intervention based on need and current services that are provided. So similar to the way that we've conducted this now in the distance learning program that's currently running, we have some students who are attending additional groups and are being provided certain services. On Wednesday in the full distance learning, actually all 5 days are virtual with the teacher and synchronous, but on Wednesdays in particular, again, the focus of those is more on the small group instruction. Again, looking very similar to the way that the in-person students would have that, and what is currently happening as well. Okay. So in summary, for students who've selected at the elementary level the full distance learning program, they will meet with their assigned distance learning teacher virtually 5 days a week. Special ed, ESL, and intervention will require students to work with additional staff members during the day. So that may happen, or before or after the school day ends. So we're going to be working very creatively to make sure that kids receive those services. Students will not be assigned special area classes or teachers. However, they have access to a special area choice board for self-paced enrichment. No grades will be issued in the special areas for students in the full distance learning program. Okay. The middle school schedule, these obviously looks a little bit different, but the same idea applies. So the middle school schedule will run from 7:35 to 12:40. And the students who are in the blue cohort again, Monday and Tuesday, will be in school. They will arrive 7:35, grab and go breakfast. They will go to team enrichment. They will continue on through their classes, and they will be dismissed and hop the bus at 12:40. At the same time, the orange team is at home, but logging in virtually to those classes. And so they will be logging into these blocks here so that they do not need to log in anywhere during this time period, but block 1, 2, and 3, they're required to log in. Same thing on Tuesday. When both students are at home in the afternoon, they will have some assigned independent work that they have to complete flexibly. It doesn't have to be between 1:15 and 2:45, but it could be at any point in the night. But that is just to identify that there is work that would be assigned. The teacher office hours at the middle school level really represents that time and period where a teacher could still make an arrangement for a small group to pull a student or two that need some additional extra support. So there is time embedded in here as well. On Wednesdays, on Thursday and Friday, if you're in the orange team, the same thing plays out, but in reverse. On Wednesdays, both cohorts, everyone is at home, and they will have a touch point with the teacher in a little bit shorter blocks straight through the day. They will have a break and a lunch, and at the end of the day, they have a little bit more of an extended block, and again, team enrichment to touch base with kids and to do a little bit deeper social emotional work that needs to happen. So Wednesdays everyone is at home. So in summary, for that schedule, the hybrid and distance learning students, actually, let me go back just to explain something. The students who are on full distance learning, have selected full distance learning cohort, they are in distance learning 5 days a week. They simply log into their classes along with the orange team or the blue team that's at home on different days. So they're logging in live and virtually 5 days a week through their classes. So they do not have a separate program per se. They are simply not ever coming to school in person, but they are logging into their classes. So I just wanted to make that distinction at the secondary level. So in summary, the hybrid model cohort, students attend in person on their assigned cohort days. Students at home log into their Google Classroom and Google Meets to participate in each class following their course schedule. Full-time distance learning DL students will just simply participate and do the same as their blue and orange cohorts, but they will do that 5 days a week. All students on Wednesdays, regardless of hybrid or distance learning, will attend classes remotely according to their schedule. At the high school, this sort of represents maybe the biggest change in the schedule. I know were a lot of questions about Wednesdays. I think, though, for as many questions there were about the perception of not having enough of structured time, we're also received as many emails thanking for the time to do things flexibly. So regardless of that, we have gone in and made some changes. We worked very closely with Mr. Donovan and his team to put something together that we think will solve some of the concerns that initially arose. So again, Monday and Tuesday at Danbury High School, the sessions will run from, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The sessions will run from 7:05 to 12:10 for in-person instruction, and they will follow an A-B day schedule. They will attend 4 blocks. They will be dismissed and grab their lunch and go home at 12:10. The orange team, similar to the middle school, and as well as the DL students and the hybrid students, will log in from home and follow their normal class schedule on an A-B rotation. In addition to this, again, the high school has an extra block in here. The middle school is a little bit more time added into their schedule, and they have some more embedded small group instruction. But we are also asking the students who have been at home on the orange team that they are able to, that they log in for live interactive mandatory flex session. It's actually interesting, mandatory flex. We'll have to think of another way maybe to word that. But our typical flex sessions that we use, the enriching students model is called our flex. And so we would like to see the orange students log in to have a kind of a Q&A and to check in with their teacher from the classes from the day. It is definitely a little bit more difficult when you're at home to ask questions. High school, particularly a lot of classes such as AP where the content is very heavy. And so this offers students an additional check-in with the teacher to make sure that they have everything that they need and to have any questions answered for a quick check-in. The team who is at home, the blue students who happen to be home, can also log into this time and have those same questions answered. But we're asking that the orange team at home, that is a mandatory flex. And we're going to reevaluate that at the end of the semester to see if that is indeed still necessary. But we wanted to ensure that we had sort of a fail-safe system in here to make sure that kids students who are logging into their classes have an opportunity to ask some questions at the end of the day if they didn't have an opportunity to do so in class because they're home virtually. So the same plays out Thursday and Friday with the orange team. Again, just the reverse. On Wednesday, similar to the other models, all students are at home and are logging in. This Wednesday becomes an alternating A-B schedule. Mr. Donovan and his team has created a calendar to alternate these days and also take into the account that there are some Mondays and some holidays in the school calendar where that would mean that the blue team would be in school a little bit less than the orange team and or vice versa on some weeks. And so he's going to create and flex the schedule A-B to account and make an adjustment so that there's equal amount of instructional time for students in both cohorts who attend in person. Just something of note on the Wednesday afternoon session, students will log in for a mandatory Mentor Flex session. This is a live session, so will be an SEL check-in, an additional opportunity for students to work with their mentors for a variety of reasons. And we think that this will be very helpful across the year, particularly in this environment, to make sure that we have that one-to-one check-in with their mentors. And the afternoon will be assigned independent work, and most of our teachers are in department meetings on Wednesdays across the district. So that is where they will be. So in general, and again, similar to the middle school, students who've selected the full distance learning model will just be logging in from home 5 days a week. The hybrid program cohorts, students will attend in person on their assigned cohort days. Students at home log into their Google Classrooms and Google Meets to participate. They follow their course schedule. Students who do not attend class in person must also attend the aligned flex session to check in with their teacher. Again, we will reevaluate that at the end of the semester to ensure that that is indeed still needed. Full-time distance learning program students will simply log in and follow their courses 5 days a week. And all students on Wednesdays, regardless of hybrid or distance learning, will attend the classes remotely according to the published calendar. And the students will be shared on this calendar if they haven't already received that. And I believe that calendar runs through the end of December, and then will be readjusted, and things like snow days and so forth may be accounted for. ACE may have a slightly different schedule to accommodate student needs. So those will be published and sent to students from that school specifically. Something to note, we are still giving the SAT at Danbury High School. So October 27th, students in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12 not taking the SAT will have asynchronous lessons posted for the day. So yes, we will be coming back for just one day, and then we will be in asynchronous learning the next day to accommodate our seniors taking the SAT. So the timing is not terrific, but it is nevertheless necessary. Students in grade 12 who are registered will report to school at 7:05. The buses will run normally. Breakfast and lunch will be provided. We'll end the day at 12. And I believe a robocall went out yesterday to confirm the students who have registered. And in a very short time, room assignments will be emailed to those students so that they are aware of where they need to go on the day of the test. We will also provide the PSAT for juniors in January, and more information will be coming out. We did have lots of questions around attendance and whether or not students' attendance will be counted or how it could be counted. I just want to distinguish, and it's not quite on this slide, but there's a difference between period attendance. So I was present for my algebra class at 7 a.m., but I didn't attend any other classes, and that would be the daily attendance. So period attendance is by class at the secondary level, for instance, and the daily attendance is that you've attended at least half of the school day. And so in this environment, and this was this little graphic here was extracted from the state of Connecticut's publication and guidance on tracking attendance. And in remote and in hybrid, a student can be considered to be in attendance by a combination of these four things here. So, and that is for the daily attendance. So attending virtual classes, virtual meetings, consideration for time logged into any electronic systems that we have, and any assignment submission or completion. So if students were assigned asynchronous work and they have completed that, and it would have taken a student an hour or 2 hours, so on and so forth, that that time is logged in to account for at least half the school day to be marked overall present or overall absent. We will be adjusting our attendance codes on the back end. It's really nothing that folks really need to worry about at home, but we've had to expand our different codes to take in consideration students who are in a remote program who are absent or present, and students who are in person, absent or present. We are still working with learning about the state of Connecticut, and they should be updating us with further guidance on ways in with which our distance learning days can be counted. Should we need to use them for, should we have a snow day? So if we have inclement weather and we simply shift over to distance learning, we would obviously like those days to count. There have been some state statutes, I believe, on the books that have made that a little bit complicated, that I know that are being worked on now. And it's my understanding that the commissioner will be providing guidance on the ways and what we need to do on our end to have our distance learning days considered for the use for inclement weather when we have to cancel in-person learning. And I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but I know that the state of Connecticut is working on providing that guidance for us. You would think that that would be a bit of a no-brainer, but it needs to be clarified, and we will certainly follow suit with whatever we need to do to comply. The grading for this year, we've said this in many other notifications, we're back to normal grading procedures for 612. If a student has any difficulty, they should contact the teacher and school administrator. There still is an option for a pass-fail. However, that needs to be delineated and approved at the school level. But we are back to normal grading procedures. Normal honor roll distinctions will be restored for this year. At the K-5 level, we have standards-based report cards. So there are components, academic pieces that are on the report cards that sort of delineate different levels of progression with different skills. And so some of that will be shifted. And so while we'll still continue with the grading, there will be some areas that will be not applicable because we haven't reached that part in our pacing yet, or things have shifted because we have shifted some standards and have prioritized other areas. So those changes we will kind of make special notes about what teachers and parents can expect with those. The teachers will be making those adjustments, particularly in the special areas. The hybrid program students will receive grades for the classes that they attend. The distance learning program students will not receive grades. So that would be an area that a student would receive an NA and not applicable. As far as technology goes, we're expecting students to bring in a fully charged laptop when they come into school on daily, and to also to protect those devices to the greatest extent possible. And that, there are a lot of the backpacks these days have a pocket to keep things safe. But folks can get creative. I just had someone, one of the principals texted me a picture of a bubble envelope from the UPS store, and the student was able to transport their laptop in a little bubble case that was, I think they probably purchased at the dollar store. So there are different ways that students can definitely protect their devices, but they will be bringing them back and forth for the most part, unless they're directed to do so otherwise from their teacher. And we just ask that all of our students respect our school equipment, and that they adhere to safety and security protocols when we are in the hybrid environment, and particularly the secondary level, where there's an expectation for collaboration at home and in school. That requires a very intense amount of digital collaboration and respect, so that the teacher can teach their lessons. And so we're just making sure that parents at home are also holding their children vigilant to having the utmost level of respect for the hybrid and the complexities that kind of ensue as we try to implement this new model. Parent-teacher conferences, we were going to reschedule these for K-5. There's going to be many changes with teachers and shifting in programs, and so we feel that it would be best to hold off a few weeks closer to the report card, and when teachers who are receiving new students have an opportunity to develop some relationships and to best understand their students' abilities. So we'll be putting out some new dates for that. Grades 6 through 12 will remain the same. We may have to get a little creative with how we set those appointments. And there may be some asynchronous activities that are assigned to students in order to be able to accommodate parent schedules, to be able to meet with all parents, and all the meetings will be virtual. And then this really isn't for the general population. This was a slide that was added in. I know that there were some board members who were curious about, what does the distance learning look like at home? Maybe I don't have children in the school system, or I don't have school-age children. And so there's a link to some lessons, just a few that were delivered, and then some wonderful K-5 student response videos that you can take a look at to see sort of how our students are working in this environment. And I have to say, we've been very proud of our teachers. Let me stop sharing now. Very proud of our teachers and what they've been able to accomplish in a short period of time. We did provide them with some training for the distance learning, and they have taken off. And so they've been really, our students have gotten settled into a lot of the routines for distance learning, and are doing well. So we were really proud of the work that the teachers have done, and the support of the parents at home, and the work that the kids have been doing to do well and to thrive in this environment. So you can help yourself to those links at will, and get a sense of what that looks like at home.
So Kara,
Yes.
just briefly, because there may be some differences in class sizes based on the number of faculty that we had to reassign. So you'll have some variances on classes. Maybe, we tried to do some combining. We were able, actually, Kevin and Kelly and Kim were able to salvage all of the classes, all but one that we had to combine schools, which was very impressive. So there are some variances. Also, Kara has some piloting going on. So you may have heard some differences at one school versus another that we want to kind of keep an eye on. And in fact, if it's solid and something that we could scale up to for us to utilize, then we will look at things like that. So we have some things going on corollary to the regular program. The other thing I think board members have said, hey, what about connectivity? Gina, can you respond to that, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I did receive our vouchers for Comcast, and we have started passing those out to families. So I'm very excited about that. We're going to be sending some reminder robocalls that this is available and posting some more information on our website. In addition, that was part of the Everybody Learns initiative, and we did receive an additional 900 Chromebooks as part of that initiative as well. So every part of the commitment has been filled. So.
And the connectivity in the schools, I know that's been, any comments?
Yeah, the access points in the elementary schools, the installation of those has been completed. And so now we're just in the process of visiting every elementary school to test out their bandwidth and make sure that every AP is working. Yep.
The other side is Kelly Trucas.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your program?
Sure.
How it fits in and what the L's in that?
Yeah. So with special education and related services, we've done a very similar model to the secondary. What we have done is we have taken most of our caseloads, and we'll have the teachers do a combination of in-person instruction and some streaming to students that are at home. In populations where it made sense that there was enough students to warrant a full distance learning class, we will be assigning one teacher to do full distance learning. And so we are currently working through talking with our building administrators and then outreaching to each of the staff members that are involved in that to make sure that they are clear on the students that they will be responsible for as we transition back into hybrid. It was our goal as a department to make sure that we're providing the best instruction, but also minimizing disruptions to these students because their learning needs are unique. And we felt keeping them consistent as much as possible was very, very important. And I know that the ESL department is operating similarly and is kind of following that pattern with that population of students as well.
Kevin, anything you add to the presentation before we move to questions? Kevin? I guess he's good. Kim, anything?
Yeah. So I'm actually, quite frankly, I'm excited about the principals' participation in our meetings this week. Kelly and Kim and I met with every elementary principal this week in preparation for just trying to get their staff ready. And given the varying options that were available to our parents, the principals have worked really hard to meet those needs, meet those demands. And as a result, we've had to move staffing around considerably. And principals have been working hard for these last couple of weeks, just trying to balance classrooms. But frankly, I'm excited and feel like we're going to be positioned well to open up our schools next week.
Kim, anything? You good?
Yeah, I just want to echo Kevin's concern or Kevin's comments. And I will say that one of the things that I have been most deeply embedded in is talking with well over 100 of our staff members about some pretty important health conditions, serious issues that these folks have in returning to work. And I continue to be impressed by the resilience of our staff and by their dedication to their craft. I think it has been, while challenging, it has been a really important and critical part of this process. And it really has allowed us to say as a group that we value our teams and we value our employees. And we're able to really work with the vast majority, if not all of them, to find some sort of reasonable way to help them. We also have taken that opportunity as another way to continue to reinforce for our teams that we continue to put in supportive services. Kelly and her crew often will step in to help. but also the EAP plan that we've put in place, a lot of the training that we've put in place, I think has just been really helpful. And I think it's starting to really become a critical part of people's navigating back through what is kind of an unsettling time for everyone. So I think it's been a very hard month, but I think it's been a really valuable one for us. And so I just wanted to say I continue to be impressed by our team of teachers and staff members, and this is a very special place.
Kara, thank you very much. Kelly, thank you very much, and the whole team for doing it. Thank you, Gladys. That's the presentation. So if there are questions.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Gladys, you're still on mute. I'm assuming Gladys recognized me. She's still on mute, but I have a couple of questions. I think this one's for Kara. The most common question I've had asked to me by friends and family and people I've seen is, why is K to 5 asynchronous on the off days, especially in light of the fact all of the surrounding towns are synchronous learning on their hybrid days. New Milford is, Newtown is, I believe Bethel is as well. In fact, New Milford, even the full distance learning kids are logging and Googling into the classroom. Why are our off days for elementary schools asynchronous? Because that really seems to, I don't know, it seems to, I'm lost on why that's better.
Yeah. So we had extensive conversations about, so when students log in at the high school level or at the middle school level, you know, they're basically, I'm not going to say it's a little more than observing, right? You're learning, you're interacting to the greatest extent possible. It takes a tremendous amount of work to design lessons to engage students who are both at home and in the classroom. And we've been talking and having those conversations. And so we're working towards what that looks like. And you can do it, interactive virtual lessons with
all the surrounding towns are.
Yeah, yes, 612, it's a little bit easier to do that with students because you can get them up and running and working a little bit more independently.
Of course.
There was lots of concerns about the ability for a teacher who is in a classroom, elementary classroom, to attend to the 10 or 12 students who are in front of him or her, as well as try to engage students who are at home at the same time in the same lesson without being tethered to their laptop. And so what happens is either if you put a camera in the back of that classroom, it turns into like a security camera, right? Where you're observing, you're trying to catch what you can catch in that lesson. And so while you may be able to observe what's happening between 8 and 1, is that engagement of actual instruction with a student, as opposed to, you know, we've been able to produce some pretty high quality videos with lessons that are pre-recorded to engage students with some step-by-step directions for that practice, and then to be able to check in with them at the end of the day. So they will get a check-in with the teacher at the end of the school day. And then when those students come in, they will have their teacher's undivided attention for the 2 days that they're in. And we think that that will serve our students a little bit better. We also have a lot of our students, you know, their home being watched by a variety of folks. Parents are a little bit in survival mode with where they get childcare right now. Yes, and that describes most folks. And so having the ability to actually engage with these lessons a little bit more flexibly, so that these videos and the slides can be looked at times that may be a little bit more convenient when mom and dad gets home from work. In addition, we felt would be a better direction to go. We're hoping that we can get a little more direct contact, a little more direct engagement. So we'd love to see the bookends of the day. So in the morning, engage students, and in the afternoon, follow up at the check-in. But we need to slide in and get into school and get our systems up and running. I know that, you know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it possible that we may move the off-day kids to synchronous learning at some point? It seems like every other district is doing it. I'm just kind of still lost as to why we're not.
Well, I think you know, we've had the conversation. What we're trying to do is the kids in front of us. We're trying to work with them as best we can without interfering the instruction during the day. And as we looked at those models, I think they became more a perception as a convenience to zero in. And we questioned it ourselves. We said, well, why aren't we doing that? Would it work? And we came down thinking, let's focus on the kids in front of us and study that. And then see if we need to make, I think what Kara just said, some accommodations that we can increase time, then by means, let's try it. But that was, I think we went back and forth, and what we learned was 612 seemed to resonate better. That's why we have that. And here we thought this would actually do a better job with the kids in front of us, giving them their time.
I recognize we're all just guessing. Nobody's ever done this before.
No, and the folks that I've talked to, we've spoke to folks in different districts, and we actually have a council group that we meet with, and they're really, I hate to say this, no one's super thrilled with any model that they have for a variety of reasons. For obvious reasons, this is an emergency model that we're operating in. This is a model that the state has required us to have as a result of our 1/2 measure back to full in-person learning. And if we had our druthers, it would, and we had 10 more teachers at every grade level, we'd be probably look at different models. But we're definitely doing the best we can, and we're also going to reassess. So after a couple of weeks, we're going to see how students are responding. Are they responding in the way that we hope that they're able to? And to get some feedback. And at that time too, once we get our teachers in, particularly at K-5, trying to find some creative ways to have a little bit more engagement. Again, when you teach if you are to teach from your laptop, you are tethered to the laptop if you are trying to engage both groups. And when you have 14 little ones in front of you, younger kids, it's a little bit, and you're trying to maintain their socially distance and health measures while you have another 10 students asking questions at home. It just, so perceptually and from a compliance standpoint, it appears that more is happening than really is. It's my professional opinion, but we will reassess that professional opinion in a few weeks and see how it goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rachel, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Thanks. I was just wondering if this presentation could be posted on the district website. There's a couple of hyperlinks there, maybe not the last slide, but that would be helpful for families to see it all in one place. Also, are we expecting the elementary kids to find their schedule of small groups and specials?
No. So what's going to happen is there'll be a transfer per se of if a child is getting a new teacher. So towards the end of this week and or possibly Monday, we're still working on the finalizing a few last minute details. So if a child's teacher is changing, they will receive a letter. All children will receive a letter. You either have the same teacher, good luck, go forth, or your child's teacher is changing, or here's your distance learning teacher. And we're going to include a new Google Classroom code on that letter if the child's teacher is changing. And then that child's teacher, particularly at the K-5 level, will reach out to families, and just similar to the way they did when we started the year, go over the schedule. So the schedule for that classroom will be posted, and the inner workings of how the school is operationalizing a few things. There are nuances in every building. And so the schedule for those children, if they have special services or if they've got groups, will be made known to those kids. And again, we tried to keep groups. So if you're staying with the same teacher and you had ESL services, after lunch, you will probably still have ESL services after lunch. The time may have shifted, but we tried to put some things into place that kept similar routines in place to keep groups, so continuity of instruction and just sort of the fluidity with understanding where to go.
The other thing just to add in is for students that are receiving multiple services. So like in my department, that's frequent that a kid might have, regular ed instruction. They may have specialized instruction for reading or math. They may have occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language. What we've done is in their individual Google Classroom, there's a way to post just to that child, and they have a schedule by day of the week that's consistent with the same links every single time. So they just go to their individual schedule and click on the link. So we've tried to make it, and we've even had our students as young as preschool that are operating and amazingly doing a great job going through those links. So I think it's working, and we found that visual kind of picture that's personalized to the kids. So for those that have more services and support, or in any cases where students may be struggling with that feature, the kids are really doing an amazing job at it.
That's great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from board members?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question, Gladys. Amy.
Yes, Amy.
First of all, I just want to say to all of you who've been working so hard on this, you just totally amaze me. Like, you're like magicians, the things that you're coming up with, and we just really appreciate. I'm sure we all feel the same way. It's amazing what you've done. I just want a little bit of clarification, Kara. I think you said in the K-5, for someone who's a distance learning student and is home, you said something about you were training or working on staff members. Are there different teachers, like just like you explained about how you can't really have a class of 12 or 13 in front of you and then also be dealing with 10 that are home or something? So are there different teachers that are teaching that distance learning to the K-5?
Yes. So we have so one of the, I'm glad you brought that up, because, while, we won't have cameras in the K-5 for the hybrid going, we have made a big move in the ability to have that choice where a student can have a distance learning teacher that's dedicated to just distance learning. And so they will have a different teacher. As you know, Kim had mentioned, we've had, a lot of staff members that have needed accommodations. We were able to creatively match staff members who needed accommodations to remain at home with students who have also selected the option for distance learning. And then we built on that to sort of round out a distance learning program. So yes, students who selected distance learning will be assigned a dedicated distance learning teacher.
In K through 5.
K through 5.
Yep.
K through 5. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions from board members?
I just have a quick question. It looks like Jody Silva does as well.
Go, Katie.
Gina, I just wanted to follow up with you real quick. I know you mentioned we got some additional Chromebooks, which is great. And I just want to follow up about the internet connectivity through the elementary schools, because I think at the last boarding we had a brief conversation about that. And I just want to make sure that we're good to go there.
Yep, so the last time we talked about it, we were in the process of installing all the APs. And so now they have been all installed, and like I said, we're going around to each school for to test the connectivity and make sure that all the APs are working as we anticipate.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gladys, I just had a quick question. I don't know whether this is for Dr. Sal or our health director or who. Just, are we comfortable right now with the way the state and local COVID numbers are, that we're moving in the right direction to reopen?
Joe, I have a whole thing on the reopening.
Oh, all right, never mind. Never mind.
I was gonna,
I'll ask you later.
Kara and Kathy are here. I thought we would talk about that. Might give us time.
I jumped the gun. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I do want to let the board know that, Kim, part of this accommodation, particularly at the secondary level, where it's content specific, the model provides our chemistry, physics, calculus teacher, if not in person, to be home and teaching it. You can't find a calculus teacher. You can't find a Spanish, Italian teacher. So what we've been able to do through the work of Kim, the principals, and Kevin and Killian, is they'll teach remotely, and we'll have an assigned supervisor in the room, basically the monitor. Or in some cases, we have to hire a sub. I think this whole thing, if it all comes to fruition the way we think there's one, I'm looking at Kim now, one FTE, which I'm just amazed. I thought I was gonna talk to the board about more than that, right? To
Yeah.
make this
Yep.
work. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, what has ended up happening is we've sort of evolved into two different models. So at the secondary level, we are doing this sort of distance teaching. So we're basically beaming in teachers into the classroom, so their class rosters are not changing. What's changing is just their physical location. So that's at the secondary level, and that was because we had unique challenges about class schedules. At the high school, we have graduation requirements, lots of movement among kids. So that model seemed to work best at the secondary level. And at the elementary level, because we were particularly challenged to find staff to be in the rooms, sort of supervising kids while they were learning from a remote teacher, we had to adopt a different model. So we have aligned a combination of some folks who need accommodations and others who have volunteered to have a cohort of kids that have opted for distance learning. And so those will be taught in most cases from the physical classroom, but to students that are electing to work at home. So we're kind of balancing both. And part of the reason for that is to thread the needle with different schedules, different needs, and also just different patterns of learning, different structures of the day. So it's really been, it's a pretty big puzzle. And we sort of laugh, if Google Docs ever goes down, we got a big problem because there's a lot of these big spreadsheets and all sorts of things. So that's kind of how we've worked together, and the creativity of the administrators on your teams is really amazing. And that's really the whole reason why it worked so well, is because of the, credit to their commitment to making something work, so that we didn't end up with big staffing gaps, which would have been very hard to fill.
Thanks.
Actually, before I finish, Dr. Sal, I do want to just, in the darkening cloud that is substitutes, I do just want to say a word about that. We have turned a lot of our attention to that issue. You all know, because you've been hearing for years about how compromised we are with making sure we have sufficient substitute coverage in our buildings. Never will that be more true than this year. And so where we ordinarily have a staff or a pool of about 200, 250 subs, we've canvassed the group and we've heard back from about 50. So this is going to be a big challenge for us to figure out how to cover. So we're working on some different creative ideas, and are always looking for everyone to spread the word that we're looking for folks who are interested in substitute teaching. But we'll have some new protocols for COVID protections, but also just trying to make sure we've got sufficient coverage in our buildings is going to be a particular challenge for us this year.
And you may have some undergraduates take advantage of the executive order, right, from WestCon.
Right. If you have a student who has decided to take a leave term or something like that, also, we'd love to hear from them. And we're going to try to work with WestCon and some of our other partners to see if there's anyone else that we can pull in to do some subbing for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Could I just thank Carol for the presentation? It was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And I totally agree with Rachel. If we can put this on a website so parents can see it, it would really be a big help to them. And so again, thank you on behalf of the board. It was a beautiful presentation. And I think you can understand it much, much better than just having somebody come forth asking a question. Now you can see it on paper and you can realize, okay, this is the way it's going to be. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So superintendent report.
No,
I'm sorry.
We have action items.
Okay. Kate, could you make the motion for the action item?
Sure thing. I will make a motion that the Board of Education ratify the memorandum of agreement with the National Education Association of Danbury, NEA, related to COVID-19 working conditions for the July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021 work year only.
Motion made by Kate.
That was a second by Joe DeSilva there, Gladys.
Seconded by Joe. Any questions, any discussion about the motion? Seeing none. Kate, could you do the roll call?
Certainly. Joseph Britton. I think he is doing. There he is. Joe, did you give us an aye or nay? Okay, we'll skip him. Rachel Chalesky.
Aye.
Kate Canetta. Aye. Gladys Cooper.
Aye.
Lauren Daly. Lauren, are you there? You're on mute. Okay, Joe De Silva,
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson,
Aye.
Al Russo,
I, Joe Britton, texted yes.
Sorry.
okay. Lauren, are you an I there? Or a no?
Aye, yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No problem, thank you.
I thought I unmuted.
And Amy Spallino.
Aye.
Okay, so
Kate,
that
did
is
you hear there
unanimous.
was, I think Al had something to add?
Yeah, Al said that Joe Britton voted yes, yeah.
He sent me a,
He's put it in the chat, actually.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, see it.
Okay, the motion has been moved and second, and the motion has been carried. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, and
Next
thank
is
you.
superintendent's report.
Okay, I'll make it short. Kevin, the October 1 enrollment report, you ready? Go. Okay, while Kevin's doing it, let me go to B.
Okay.
Early Childhood Center at Granville. Kelly has been working with Bob, as you know, to open it up. And it has been really challenging and difficult, the construction. I was going to thank the mayor. The mayor is working with their building department to get, I guess, a temporary CO, particularly for our second floor, so we can get our classrooms open. Very much appreciate that. But even at that, talking to them today, doors haven't come in. I mean, you know, you've all worked with contractors, you know what's going on. But we have a date that we think will work, and that is November. Kelly, I'm going to say November 9th.
9th.
Yes.
So we were originally planning on opening preschool the 2nd of November, which was a week after the K-12 return. We are now going to be pushing it out additional week due to a couple different factors, but Granville being a primary factor to that. So we will continue in the distance learning model until the students return to in-person learning on November 9th. And so we will, we just made the decision late this afternoon, Dr. Sal and I. We sent out an email to notify staff that we were planning to make this proposal this evening. And our plan would be to notify families, you know, following in the next day or so.
Now, I will say, if Bob can get it done earlier, you know, we'll do that. But I'm hoping that that 9th is solid. So Kelly has been, thank you. I know you've been there almost every day, shaking and baking. But we should take a tour there when it's done. I think you're going to be very pleased with it when it's done.
And Dr. Sal, I just want to acknowledge Michelle Capitelli, who's the preschool supervisor, has been instrumental in getting everything, you know, done and in place for there. It's certainly a heavy lift, particularly at this time. And she has just been phenomenal to work with, as well as Kathy on the nursing and the isolation room. It's been a good team. You know, Bob is doing everything he can, and he's hit numerous stumbling blocks regarding the building. But we are excited, and every time I go there, it's going to be a great place for our youngest kids. So I'm really, really excited to open the center. I think the end result you'll all be very, very pleased with. We just need to hang in there, unfortunately, another week.
Okay. Kevin, you ready?
Yes. So a quick update for AIS and enrollment for the 2021 school year. We are down some seats across the board with our partner schools and non-partner school districts as well. I think we had mentioned to the board last year, Principal Chris Roach and his team did an amazing job reaching out to the non-partner districts last year. We brought in, you know, close to 10 additional students for non-partner schools last year, and that was really a credit to him and his team's vision getting out into communities who historically had not attended AIS. As you might imagine, because of the pandemic, those numbers are down this year. So last year we had 44 students. We had 34 students committed from out of town, non-partner districts. And this year we are down only actually to 32. But it's really our partner schools where we've also experienced some reductions. We are down in total 18 seats between Brookfield, New Fairfield, New Milford, Newtown, and Reading. Courtney will explain a little bit later. Financially, we don't necessarily lose any funding because those commitments, those districts have stuck to their financial commitment to us. But it also means that we had, at least until October 1st, less space to fit our own students. And so currently we have 233 Danbury seats, 39 from Brookfield, 14 from New Fairfield, 18 from New Milford, 6 from Newtown, 4 from Reading. Anyway, for a total, we have 346 students at AIS. Last year, October 1st, we had 365, which is, that may be the number Rachel was concerned about. I think we reported something differently at the last meeting. So we are down, close to 25 seats in total. And again, it's mostly due to the pandemic that we were not able to get the commitments that we've had in previous years. But I anticipate those numbers will go back up when things calm down in our respective communities.
And the overall numbers were, we didn't see the rise at all, but it was down by about what, 0.7%, or 100, and the net difference is 145. Is that correct, Kevin?
I'm sorry.
The net difference overall enrollment.
No, it's not that significant, Sal.
I can't
Last
see
year
it.
we were at 365. This year we're at 340.
No, I'm talking about the district level. I was looking at the total on the page.
25. It's 25, the net change. I think Kevin, right? 20 out of district and 5 in
No,
district.
you guys are talking about the magnet school only. I'm talking about the district.
Oh, district wide.
The district down, we're down minus 145 in terms of total. But the magnet school, we'll have to correct the minutes from the last meeting, but that was a funding issue. But as of right now, we did not see the influx we did last year. We don't know what's going to happen if things get lifted, but right now we're staffed at the level, as you know, and the delta is at minus 145. So next, I have the summit. You heard what the mayor said, and I think what we'd like to do, I was going to ask Joe. I think Kara talked to you about maybe trying to get a facilities committee meeting. There's two things going on. There's some funding at the state level for some solar projects that the town wants to get involved with us. We haven't done a few. We've done a number of them. Then we stopped for a few years, but there's some real incentive money there to do it. Some good possible savings. And the other thing is we ought to talk about the summit in terms of program. I'd like us to start talking about, the concept of what a career academy looks like, what the Nashville Academy looks like. So we can start, I think, with the facilities committee, and then at a board meeting, start talking about the concept and come up with a concept. The board will have to come around to approve the specs programmatically. As you know, it is built now for 1,200. We had a real concern about 900, but we're feeling comfortable about the 1,200, which means it literally what it meant up there was getting another pod, ostensively. So now, I think we begin talking about, and I'll have our program folks come and talk about some concepts that we're looking at for that career academy. So I don't know, Joe, if we set a time, but maybe at the end of the meeting, you can do that and we can start having conversations around that. Thank you. Oh, and I do have one more thing. Next Tuesday, I believe, is it next Tuesday? Maybe, yeah. The NAACP has asked, we're going to go and speak with them. They were doing some comparison in terms of arrests, and with a few of the districts, and we've seen that would be secondary. We were a little high, and asked us about, to look at those numbers and talk about them. So next Tuesday, we'll be talking to them. We've met with the chief of police. We've met with the high school during his busy time, but we have a conversation that we'll have with the NAACP next week. Kevin, when is it? What time? Could you help me out with that?
I believe it's at 7 o'clock, Sal.
7 o'clock. So I'll let you know how that goes, but I did neglect to put that on my report. I apologize. So thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Dr. Sal, you very kindly let us know there's about 3,400 kids who are going to be going into the DL model. I'm just wondering if we have a breakdown for the different levels of high school, middle school, and elementary, if those are like a consistent percentage to.
Yeah, there were actually, Kelly, Kara sent us that. Let me see if I can find it actually.
I just want to pull it up. If you give me a moment, I'll be able to get
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
The elementary, the elementary had a split, the 1,400. There was about 450 of those kids were ELO kids, and then about 160 were sped, and the rest were regular ed. So that made up for that. So the other 1,500, you could see a spread between 6 through 12, but I don't know what the middle and high school exactly would be. So maybe Kara could probably. Kara Wanza, she's not online, but she has been phenomenal getting all the data loaded up so that we were able to disaggregate it in a meaningful, constructive way.
Thank you for that.
Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Dr. Sal, two parts. The build out price for the summit went from 45 million to 94, yet we're only increasing our student enrollment from 900 to 1,200. I'm sorry, is there anything new there? Any other aspects we're adding to that building that would just?
No, just space.
Okay.
Just space. With the 900, when we looked at it, we were really concerned that we're going to underbuild. And I think when the state, when they looked at the numbers, they verified that the added numbers, they would give us the reimbursement, because we do need that space for the number of students that we have. Because it will have to be middle school.
Part two, that meeting next week at 7 p.m. Is that open to the board?
Well, every meeting is open to the board, but the way the board's policy works is the committee will meet and discuss it, and then other members are invited to participate, but it is just a committee meeting, but every board member is invited.
Well, I'm sorry, policy committee? Which committee is?
No, I'm saying by board policy,
Oh, okay.
the way the subcommittees work. Gladys, am I correct? And we're still working that way?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Al, you'll be there. The committee will discuss it, and I'm sure Joe will ask you have a question, but it's really a committee, and then the other board members that are there can participate. We just don't want to make it a board meeting per se.
Right.
That's the issue.
Dr. Sal, I have the answer to
Go
Kate's
ahead.
questions. So we had 3,486 students total on distance learning. 1,088 of those were at Danbury High School. 797 of them were at the 3 middle schools, pretty evenly split. And then there was about 26 students at some of our other programs like Reach and Endeavor and the ACE program. And then the remainder of those were at the elementary level. So overall, pretty evenly split across the grade levels.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Kelly.
well, when we talk to the other urbans, that we're running about 70% thereabouts, so in school and about 30% on DL. It seems to be consistent at this point.
Madam
Thanks,
Chair.
Kelly.
Yes, Jeff.
Mr. Britton sent me a text message. He's looking to do the facilities meeting Tuesday, the 27th at 7 p.m. if it works for everybody else. His mic is not working, so he's apologizing. If that works for everybody.
No, I will have a conversation with him tomorrow. Let's see
Okay.
if it works with everyone, and see
Okay.
make sure there's nothing else going on, and then we can confirm it then.
Okay, thank you.
Also, the Dr. Sam, the number that Kelly just gave out, could we sort of put that numbers and that like sort of an email and send it to all board members so everyone will have and know what they're talking about?
Sure.
I will take care of that.
Talk about
Send
the
it to you,
numbers.
Dr. Sal.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you, Kara.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I just want to go back to what you said, Dr. Sal, about the NAACP meeting next week. You said there's a committee, that goes. Gladys, what committee would that be?
No, there isn't a committee. The committee of the NAACP their meeting, and they invited us to their meeting.
Okay.
If I said I missed.
Is that their local chapter meeting that we're talking about?
That's
No, it's not a local chapter meeting.
It's a separate meeting for education.
Yes, it's just it's a meeting that the NAACP leadership, from my understanding, is having with Dr. Sale and Mr. Walston and whoever else that Dr. Sale has invited.
Oh,
Yeah.
As far as I
The
know.
invitation came from Julia.
Okay, so that's the education committee of the NAACP.
Yes.
That's who's meeting with you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, can we talk about the reopening?
Yes.
Great. I think I said back then that, and the board's always been, same concern has been on safety, but as you know, I remarked that if we get our students back this year in front of us, we're going to be very fortunate to do that. And I'm glad we're able to do it. And one of the reasons why is we're able to do it, we're learning some things from our surrounding town, but the essence of the number of students that are on DL provided us the opportunity to do a hybrid, which splits our students in half. The state has always looked at this as a transition. So for us, the transition of being in remote learning, the state calls it, we call it DL, is that when numbers of when the numbers of infection rate get to a certain amount, that would move us from DL back to hybrid. When you're in the hybrid model, that is also a transitional period. The expectation is when will you go to full in-person? Now, if you look at everybody around us, you'll notice that just about every school district has started on the hybrid, and now they're transitioning to the in-person learning. And the transition typically has been either a K3 for a few days or K5, and then middle stayed on hybrid, they come in. And then the high schools, to my knowledge so far, been on hybrid. With that said, we've taken the opportunity to look at our numbers, and in consultation with the doctors, as you know, last week when I talked to you, that we would start the hybrid model on 26. Now, Joe, we've been monitoring the numbers, and I have Kara here. We spoke as recent as the other day, and I'll let her speak. But my takeaway from this is that our numbers that we're seeing are going to be our numbers. The infection, the rate of actual positive rate is about 5%, which has been consistent. What has fluctuated has been the number of incidences, where it's gone up to 24, 25, down to 17. But the overall numbers seem to tell us that we have an opportunity to bring students in because it is consistent. Certainly, we'd like to see it going the other way a little bit more. And this week, the report that I have did do that. But Carrie, you're there. Maybe you could explain it a little bit better than I am in terms of how we looked at those numbers, those cases.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Sell. So as Dr. Sell said, we're continuously monitoring this. Some days we go up a little bit, some days we go down a little bit. I just ran the numbers for our positivity rate for the past week, right before I hopped on here, and we're actually down a little bit to a 4.2 positivity rate. It changes every day. It's rolling. I usually do it by week. We're watching very closely how this is what's happening in other schools throughout the whole state. And what we have seen is that there's very little transmission in schools. So we're watching our numbers closely with that in mind. It's showing that the mitigation strategies put in place have been effective. So even with community spread, that's not transitioning into spread in schools. Our numbers have consistently still been in the moderate range. They are looking at addendum 4, which is the metrics for the different levels. Department of Public Health is looking at that. There could possibly be changes based on that because it was developed in June and they've learned a lot since the reopening of schools. So we're also looking at that. One of the changes that they are making is they're going to a 14-day rolling average instead of a 7-day rolling average, because it does give a little bit of a more accurate picture. So right now, actually, our 7-day and our 14-day rolling average is right around 17, which is in the moderate level.
So, so one of the encouraging things that's going on is that we're beginning to get actual data from our Connecticut schools. And I think I shared it with you, Kara, and the team this past week. And the transmitting of the virus among students is something like 0.27%, teachers 0.073%, some less than 1%. Which is telling us that those expectations that it may really cause a lot of infection rates and dismissal is not materializing. What's happening is what we're reading. The contact tracing relegated to a classroom, 2 or 3 classrooms. Students go home for the 14 days. Rest of the faculty come in and students, and they're able to move ahead. So we're collecting that data regularly. In fact, one of the things that we're doing, I've asked the area superintendents to come together with their directors of health and nurses, and we're going to do some tabletop on contact tracing for consistency in the region. So, the reopening was based on that. We will open on the 26th. Buses, I think someone asked me about the bus. I think it was Joe. And here's what I keep finding about the buses. The buses will have windows open. Some districts have 2, they'll put 2 or 3 to a seat, but they're finding less than 30% of the kids that are riding at this point. But it seems to be growing. Some districts have reported now, one that's gone back, that was about 55, 60%. I think one of our buses, from what I understand at this point, if it stands true, we have about 40 students on that bus at this point. So we're comfortable with that. And you heard the work that we've done with the hybrid. It's not perfect, but it will bring our students in. We will have everybody there. We'll have a chance to look at our technology with partial students there, with our social distancing. And as I asked around, and we continue to ask what you're doing with your distancing, I'm finding out with the mitigation strategies, 3.5, 4 feet. Lunches are pretty much in classrooms for elementary. Middle and high school are doing the grab and goes with shortened days. That seems to be the formula that's been created at this point. So as we get students in, one eye is going to be on, do we have to modify the actual program to enhance the learning, as we talked about before? And then are there things that we can do for the next step? And we're looking at the next steps. The state has provided some extra funds and it's very explicit what it can be spent for, and that will be for more PPE. We're looking at some furniture. We have some tents you're going to see at the buildings. That's for timeout or for mass breaks. So we're going to have all of that in line for us for the reopening. And my fingers are crossed. Phil, I want to get our kids back. I really feel that the Bridgeports and others are in school, our kids are home. I'd like to get them in. I want them to be able to feel comfortable and safe. And I think this is a good way of starting to do it. So I'm looking forward to the opening. I'll just leave it at that and see if there's any questions. Oh, Kathy, I'm sorry. Kathy, you're online. Anything to add to the numbers for the board?
Thank you, Dr. Sal. Good evening, everyone. I will just echo what Kara has said in regard to the transmission in schools. I've had some experience with our non-publics who have been open. We have had a couple of cases, and in those situations, there has been no additional spread of COVID in the school. It has just been within the community. And I meet weekly with my nursing supervisor colleagues in Fairfield County. And so for those districts who are either in person full-time or hybrid, they're finding the same. the reality is we will have cases. COVID is still in our community, but we have our mitigation strategies in place to prevent that spread in school. And we're prepared with our contact tracing to do what we need to do to either, keep it minimal, to either closing just a single classroom or a cohort. But the good news is the mitigation strategies are working. So I'm very comfortable with our reopening on the 26th, and I look forward to seeing the kids and having them back.
Thanks. My concern is right now is that we get our custodial staff. It has not been an easy, it's almost like the substitute teachers, right? We're out there recruiting to find our custodians to come in and help so that we have that ongoing. The buses are all set. The cafeteria is all set. The kids will come in. It'll be I call it a grab and go breakfast, right, Kathy? We have that going on for the youngsters for nourishment. And, we're ready to go.
Good. Thank you. Are there any questions to Dr. Sal from board members? Kathy, thank you again for being with us to give us the information that we need. And I know it's been a long summer, a long journey, and we just thank you for always being here to give us the information that we needed to hear. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Kathy, for doing their help.
So next on the agenda, board chairperson report. I don't have anything to report. Just want to thank everyone for coming in and being a part of the meeting tonight. And just look at your calendar and make sure we're getting close to the holidays. Make sure that you govern yourself. Those that are working to have commitments, and make sure that the calendar give you time to reconcile or do whatever you need to do with your job to be at the meeting, because we have a few date changes. Are there any board committees reporting? None? Okay. We're moving on down the agenda. I need a motion to enter into executive session.
I'll second.
Motion made by
Rachel made the motion.
And seconded by?
I'll second it this time.
Seconded
Sorry,
by-
Joe.
Okay.
Al, actually, you know what? Al's seconding. I'm sorry. Let
Al
me give it to him.
seconded.
Yes.
Al seconded.
Do you have a question now?
Unmute. Yes, should we also make the public aware we may be returning to public session for vote?
We will be returning to public session. It's down here. It's on the agenda.
And we'll be using the same link that was for this this first public session, just so you're aware.
So the motion carries. So we're going to go into executive session.
Yeah.
We vote?
We need to vote, sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead. It's getting late.
Do you want me to roll call or just
Yeah,
a collective?
Yeah, do the roll call.
Okay, Joe Britton? Yep,
Yes.
he's got a yes in the chat there. Rachel Chalesky?
Aye.
Kate Canetta, aye. Gladys Cooper?
Yes.
Lauren Daly?
Aye.
Joe De Silva? There we go, we got an aye there. Catherine Hodgson?
Aye.
Al Russo?
Aye.
Amy Spallino?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Motion so carried. Thank you all. Okay, so we go to the link for the executive session.
Yes.